I don't have all the things, society says you're supposed to have to be successful. I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a high school diploma.
Whether you on the outside of your market trying to tap back in, or just need a little help to find a way to gain some traction again, you need some market reconnection. We got the answers to your questions. No second thoughts or second guessing. You need some market reconnection.
Temelkov on Market Reconnection podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, today I have a fucking doozy of a guest, Mr. Najlah Mallott. What's going on, man?
Yo, Ivan, we finally connect, brother. We finally make this thing happen. So I'm excited to be here. It's a good day. I'm glad to reconnect with you, reconnecting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I've been following you for a couple of years on Instagram, and I'm just like, one day I'm going to somehow have the energy that John has. Like, you're just so driven, man. Like, you've got successful businesses, you're living the life that most people dream of. But before we unpack that, all right, let's just go a little bit back. Let's start with the story and the humble beginnings of John.
Yeah, man, you see this tear welling up whenever I go back.
I love it.
I'm so glad to be, far removed from that Najlah Mallott. But I'll just tell you, man, I don't have all the things, society says you're supposed to have to be successful. I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a high school diploma. My first felony arrest, I was 15 years old, which led to incarceration as a young person. And when I was finally released from that juvenile detention facility, something that we all know now today, they call it the crack epidemic, was hitting hard in the 80s. And I was just getting released from a juvenile detention facility. And look, way back then, I had my biggest issue was all the energy I had back then, man. I was out of control. It was my energy that kept getting me in trouble. But I wanted to be a capitalist, man. So and in my neighborhood, there was two types of people. There was a consumer and there was a capitalist. And I wanted what the capitalist, I wanted the rims on the car. I wanted the beautiful women. I wanted all that stuff. But I did not get the memo. Don't get high on your own supply. And I found myself at 17 years old. I had a heart attack from smoking. What we didn't call it crack. We were freebasing cocaine. And then later on, they started calling it crack. But we were freebasing cocaine. I had a heart attack. I found myself, there was circumstance around that. So I found myself locked up again. But now I was in a drug rehabilitation program that was part of this thing for juveniles. And it was in there that there was this dude by the name of Dave. Dave was a former outlaw motorcycle gang member. Dave commanded respect. Dave was the first guy that didn't talk at me. And he didn't say, oh, you're this and you're that, and you're a loser and a failure and everything else everybody was calling me. Dave held the mirror up and he said, bro, you made an appointment to be here. This is you. Stop being a little, he was like, stop being a little bitch.
Yeah.
It's you. You're here because of you, not your dad, not the police, not everything else you blame. It's you 100%. But Dave also did something that nobody had done up to that point. Because of course I'd already dropped out of high school and all that. Yeah. Dave gave me a book, bro. He turned me on to personal development. The first book ever in that personal development thing, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He basically said, you're a jerk and you need to change that, or you're gonna end up dead or incarcerated, which is already started in my life. And that book, it planted the seeds. Later on in life, I wrote a book with the motivational speaker Les Brown, and Les used to say, when your mind expands, it can never go back to the original dimensions. And that's kind of what that book did. I was still 1 foot in the hood, but now I had discovered personal development. It was like this other world out there that I was intrigued by, and I started to slowly make the changes because of the information. So that's kind of where it began. And I told you before, my last felony arrest, my final felony arrest, I was 24 years old, sitting on the bullpen floor in the Milwaukee County Jail. That's really when I made the final decision. I said, yes, I was a loser, gang member, drug, all these adjectives they used to describe me. But you ever had too many drinks and you're over the toilet saying, God, if you just let me get through this, I'll never drink again. That was me, bro. I was like, just get me out of this. I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm not doing this. That's who I was. That's not who I would be. And it was on that bullpen floor. I finally made the decision. Unfortunately, it never happens fast, man. So it took a long time from that decision before anybody recognized me as anybody. I was still a joke, a laughing stock. You know, it just never happens fast enough, or at least for me, it didn't.
You
And
know,
that's where it began.
it's so ironic that you're sharing this, man, because there's this trend that I think most people, especially new entrepreneurs that get in the game, there was some that like they're getting a taste, you know, business, like they're making some money. They just spend, I don't know, fucking 300 grand on a new Lambo or some shit. And like life's going good, right? They're living good. But there's a trend, like what you were saying is that you're probably going to suffer a lot before you finally figure out like what is it that you need to do. Like you said, you're on the toilet, you had too many drinks, and like, please God, I'm never going to fucking do this shit again, right? You're like in the regret knowing that, all right, I got to turn a new page. I got to stop living this life that I've been living because like Dave said, you're going to end up fucking dead if you don't do something, right? And that's the reality of it, which kind of brings me to, you know, so nowadays you're involved in a lot of successful companies, but that wasn't the case back then. So like at what point, which congrats on the book. I didn't know that you had a book with Les Brown, hugely respected guy in the industry. Congratulations on that. But like, so how did you just wake up one day and say, well, what if I start a business, or how did all that come together?
No, man, I wish it was that simple. It was, I had such low self-esteem. I did not see myself as anything, you know.
Yeah.
When you're told over and over, you're a failure, you ain't shit, you know, when that's constantly being reinforced, you know, at some point you start to live to that. You become that. I don't care who you are, when you're hearing it from the teachers and your parents and the police. So I didn't have any faith in myself. I didn't have any belief in myself. But again, I was very fortunate because of some of the bad behavior. I ended up getting around mentors early on that started to put new seeds into my brain. And of course, Dave was he was the beginning of that foundation. But then he also said, because I was like, bro, what am I going to do, man? I'm not built for athletics. I've had a drug problem. There's all these circumstances. I dropped out of high school. So getting a degree, my ADD and 5 other conditions was never going to allow me to sit in a classroom for very long. And Dave said entrepreneurship. Now I didn't believe it, but that little seed stayed planted and slowly it started to grow and started to grow. Cause I always thought, you know, these guys, man, they had something. I thought you had to be born into the house with the Rolls Royce already in the garage. Like that's a different pedigree. You know, my dad is a steel worker. My mom left. We didn't have that. Where was I going to get this shit from? Yeah. But it really became clear when I was a janitor for General Electric, man. I'm scrubbing another man's toilets, paycheck to paycheck, struggling. It became clear that this was not going to work. That I had to do something. And by the way, it was network marketing. It was an MLM. I showed up to a meeting someone invited me to, and they actually wanted me. They said, bro, we want you. And I'm like, are you sure? I didn't know the deal. I didn't know anything, but that's where I started to learn. That's where I met Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn became my personal mentor only because he had a financial incentive. If I
really,
it was,
that's fucking amazing, dude. Yeah. Jim Rohn.
Amazing.
I didn't mean to interject, but all right, keep going.
Well, so, you know, at the time, I didn't understand when you're sitting at the feet of greatness, when you're that young, you don't really know exactly. Cause I'm still a little, you know, I got this weird fucking cocky ego scaredness that, you know, I project on as something else. But it was Jim Rohn who took an interest. And again, mentorship is interesting. People hit me up all the time for mentorship. I'm always like, well, there's got to be something in it for both parties. Like I got a family, I got all this stuff going on. I would love to mentor everybody, but I just can't, you know, there's got to be a trade-off in value. For Jim Rohn, the trade-off was simple. It was so pure. And that's why I love network marketing and MLMs. The trade-off was simple. You go produce, kid. I'll give you a little more of my time based on your production. And I caught on pretty quick. That's how I won a contest to pick up Les Brown and his wife at the time, Gladys Knight, from the airport. And I was like, I started to figure out proximity was power. If I could get near these guys that had the information, because a good friend of mine today, his name is Mark Victor Hansen. Mark is the #2 selling author on the planet, second only to the Bible. He wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And it was Mark Victor Hansen who really turned me on to this idea of getting around the right people. get in those circles. And I started to take that seriously. So I was a sponge, man. I was, even when I was a full-time entrepreneur, my first full year, I only made $4,000. So I was still a joke. I was terrible. I was still, sucking my thumb in the fetal position. Like, what am I doing? Well, I'm still a loser. I'm trying, but I can't get any traction. But I had all these people because of this profession, network marketing, that were coming and going out of these things, and they were planting these seeds, and those seeds kept growing and growing and growing. And eventually I caught on because I learned leadership. I learned how to scale businesses. I learned how to communicate better, marketing. I learned all this stuff that made me more valuable. And eventually it started to kick in. Then I went from, 4,000 the first year, 16,000 the next year, still no one, saying John Mallott. But it was the 7th year the breakthrough happened. Imagine that, 7 years of pain. I made
7 years.
7 years, bro. I made on my 7th year, I finally cracked. I made $116,000 on my 7th year. And for me, I felt like I fucking made it, man. 6 figures, that was the goal. I had the lighters out. I'm pounding look at me, man. You can't. Yeah. But then the next year, it went to 220,000, then $1 million a year, then $2 million a year. Then I was cranking out $250,000 in my sleep. But people saw that. They see it now. No one saw it. They were laughing at 4,000 a year, 16,000 a year, 32, 40,000. I mean, I was a joke. But there was something that drove. Part of it was I had to get out of that neighborhood, man. My sister died from a heroin overdose. My brother, it was just a disaster, man. I knew instinctively that if I didn't remove myself from that environment, I was going to destroy myself. And I'd love to blame other people. I'd love to blame the environment.
Sure.
At some point we got to start to create our own environment. We can't let our environment create us. And I got that loud and clear, that I needed to make some serious changes. Anyways, but that's how it happened, man. It was a network marketing company that said, we want you and we'll teach you. Basically, I turned a $600 check into about $30 million in cash into my pocket from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But so a couple of things I want to share, because again, it's actually so ironic you were talking about creating your own environment. And it's so ironic because I posted a workout post this morning on Facebook, and like, you almost read my mind, because you said nobody will see you. People won't see you when you're at your lowest. They'll see you at your highest. They'll see you at your lowest. Like you said, you're making $4,000. Everybody's laughing at you, man. Like, who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck is he trying to do? Just like cave in, go get a regular job, do what everybody else is doing. And you're like, fuck that. I know I'm meant for more. And what you did is you invested into personal development. You invested into learning skills, network marketing that would help you ultimately grow. And bro, 7 years before you cracked the 7-figure mark. So statistically,
I didn't even make 7. It was 7 years to get 6 figures. I forget about 7 figures. I thought was never going to happen, but 6 figures after 7 years, man. I was a loser, bro. I sucked so bad. I tell people all the time, Ivan, if any of your audience can suck as bad as I did, if they can suck as bad as I did, nobody was worse than me, man. I couldn't communicate right. Everything about me was off, man. And so I tell people, you cannot be as bad as I was. It's impossible. No, I was just horrific, man. And again, the cool thing back then, though, mentors could talk to you a certain way. Like, they could be hard on you. Like, my mentors say, look, get it together. Don't fucking call me back. And I'm like, oh, and now you can't tell people the truth, because the truth hurts people a little bit. And if you tell them the truth, they get mad at you and they put you on blast, on Google and, social media. I'm like, all right, you're great. Let me just coddle you. And, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, shit, they're never going to make it, because they, people.
Isn't that fucked up? Like, people hate hearing the truth, man. They just want to hear what they want to hear.
Because our egos are too damn big. And we live lies, man. My mentor used to say, you're living a life, well, we in the neighborhood, we call it false flag, and you're pretending you were something you weren't. Fake facades you could break with a rubber hammer, man. Just super fragile, not much there, easily hurt, easily offended. That's why we got the murder rates around the world are going up and up. We're so easily offended, man. We're emotional wrecks. You know, you look at somebody wrong in the club and they want to fight. I'm like, bro, aren't you in the nightclub to dance and have a good time? Maybe pick up some girls. Why are you not trying to be all hard? What's wrong with you, man?
That's exactly it, man. People are very egocentric, very emotional, and I think it's getting worse and worse in our society, which could be a completely different discussion, but you're absolutely right. And we're talking about clubbing. Spent a good part of my life in the nightclubs, man. So I get it. It's like,
that's why we connect. That's why I think maybe that's why we connect. I did too.
it might have been that. Yeah. So, but let's talk a little bit more on the business side, man. So like you're getting Jim Brown, you know, you're getting to pick up Les Brown, you know, like shit is happening for you, right? So like, let's talk about some of the companies. I don't know if you're still involved in them nowadays, but like some of the early companies, you know, that you started out and are they still active?
Yeah. So look, what happened was the network marketing company I was involved with started to produce cash flow for me without me being involved anymore. That was the beauty of it. I had to work my ass off in the beginning. I didn't know people hated network marketing. I didn't know that they had issues with it. I didn't know it was a bad thing. And still, it's not a bad thing. It was always just a perception thing. And people got introduced the wrong way. But whatever, that's a whole nother topic. But at a certain point, it turned into a cash flow machine that just wouldn't stop. I'd wake up in the morning like, damn, there's another 10 grand. There's 15 grand. Later on, I was waking up to $250,000 overnight because South Korea team blew up. Australia blew up. This money was being made while I was sleeping. So it allowed me to go make a lot of mistakes in business. So I've had nightclubs, restaurants, mixed martial arts, cage fighting companies, publishing you name it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, private jet companies. You know, I've invested and been a part of a lot of businesses because I had a safety net. So I could take a portion. If I made $250,000 this month, I could go take 20, 30, 40,000, go and invest in something and kind of, you know, let's see where this thing goes. Most of them were failures, to be honest. None of them ever became the cash flow machine that I had from those earlier ventures. And that, you know, that really changed everything for me. Because I like, you know, sleeping till I'm done sleeping. I like, you know, doing whatever I want. I didn't want to just be rich. I wanted to be rich in time because I have a lot of rich friends. And I noticed, man, they go into an office. I'm allergic to cubicles. Like I get around a cubicle, I start to itch, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how people do this. So I knew I needed time freedom. I knew I needed to be able to work from where I wanted. Wi-Fi in a dream, baby. I wanted to be able to work from wherever I was. I didn't want to have to go into an office every day because a lot of my friends, that's what they were doing. And it looks great. But if you talk to their kids, you realize, man, yeah, daddy's rich. Everybody knows them. You would know a lot of my friends. They're big, they're big names. They're not. They didn't have the time freedom. What I did not like about my traditional business, especially the restaurants and nightclubs, man, I almost died doing that shit. Literally almost died. I was there. And it took away from my time, my relationships. And then I went back to the very thing that made me the big money. And I'm writing a book on it right now. I'll let you know, Ivan, when the book comes out. I'm writing a book on that profession and why the perception is the way it is and what people don't understand about it and how to use it to really build your dream life and to have time freedom and financial freedom. That's the game, Ivan. That's the fucking game.
Yeah. So here's another question I want to ask you because, man, like most people, I heard you say 7 years, which, by the way, historically, I think even nowadays, most entrepreneurs fail 4 years in. They cave in, they fold because shit gets too hard. You know, there's too many challenges. You were even saying it, like, I'm making some money and then I invested it. And most of those were failures, but I knew I needed to invest into it because the only way I would know if something would work is to invest into it, spend some money into it, see if it will be fruitful, right? But let's face it, you've done, I mean, leading up to where you are today, you've done a lot of different things. But what keeps you going? Like, do you just wake up every day and you're like, I'm excited, I'm thrilled, shit's gonna happen today? What keeps you going?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a few things now. I always say, figure out why. The how will work itself out if you figure out why you're doing something. So early on, I said I had to get out of that neighborhood. That was a big driver for me because, you know, when I was sitting on that bullpen floor in Milwaukee County Jail, I have a 2-year-old back home. Yeah, and I have tattooed on my arm, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. I heard that prior to going into that. and it kept replaying in my mind. I can't even take care of the one kid I have, much less children's children. I said, I got to figure this shit out. So that was my first why, get out of the neighborhood. Then now I have 4 daughters. So of course that's a big driver. I want to live long, bro. I want to, I just, my oldest daughter is 30. She just got married. I have 3 more daughters. I want to be there for the weddings. I want to be there for the kids. I don't want to be like, after I crossed 50 years old, I was like, I don't want to be the guy in the rocking chair drooling on himself with a blankie. You know what I'm saying? I want to have more energy now. I want to run faster, farther. I want to be out. I want to do this thing. I want to take it all in when I have the resources to really enjoy it. So now it's my kids. I have a beautiful, incredible wife. You know, we got to see the world. We got a lot to do. This stuff drives me every day, man. I want to share. And now, like, I had all the stuff, you name it, I've had it. Rolls Royces, all the things that people think they want. For me now, it's the experiences. Because you know what I figured out, Ivan? I have a 13-year-old daughter, and we hung out. We went to the beach house in Mexico when she came to visit me a couple weeks ago. She remembers all the stuff around the beach house, the playing on the beach, the things we did, the jet skiing.
Yep.
She does not remember the Christmas gift even from last year, from the year before. You know, I mean, 1 year ago, she can't remember what she got. Nobody remembers the stuff, and nobody really gives a shit. The new car smell wears off very quickly. So now for me, it's about experiences, and then the people that I love. Yeah. I want them to have something. I want them to know what it's like to go to Israel, to be in South Korea and experience the culture. You know what I'm saying? That's the stuff that drives me now, and unfortunately, it takes more money now than ever before. So the two experiences now are connected directly to cash in a lot of ways. Now, look, we've had great experiences going on a picnic in the park. So there's a lot of stuff you can do and tell, but some of the coolest shit, if you got the wherewithal to put your family on a first class flight and head to Dubai or something, that's a game changer. That shit they will never ever forget. Or like there's a little town in Wisconsin called Wisconsin Dells. It's like this town that's like they got go-karts and roller coasters. Yep. We go every year, and we always talk about it. It's one of the best trips ever. And we go, and I've been going there since I was a kid, and those experiences I love. Anyways, I can get going. Once you get me on you ask me a question, bro, I just run.
John, I want to touch upon the experience a statement that you made, because I'm a father. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old myself, and I'm also Bulgarian, so I was born in Eastern Europe. So when you were talking about experience, which is a huge part of how I try to live my life, and also how to try to run my business also, but the fact that you said that signifies the extreme importance of like modern business and how it needs to be more experiential, because that's what people remember. You even said that with your own kids, like didn't remember the gift, but remembered everything that you did on that trip. And I think that's really important, not just in life, but also in business, because people remember experiences. It's we had a death in the family a couple of years ago, and it was so ironic that you're talking about experience and how important it is. And like the last phone call I had with this family member, it was on my wife's side of the family. I heard regret, man. I heard regret. I wish I would have taken my golf trips. I wish I would have hung out more with my friends. I wish I would have, started a side business that I was doing, like regret. And it's like you said, I heard you said, I don't want to be that guy who's sitting on the rocking chair, drooling and then thinking about, well, what if I did that? Because regret is the worst fucking feeling, in the world. So I'm glad that you talked about it, but
bro, let me tell you something. So Jim Rohn, this is where this came. This is really what you just triggered something that I live by. Jim Rohn, way back, was one of the first things I learned. He said there's 2 pains in life: the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. He said discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. And he taught that slight edge philosophy. If you'll just pay the price of discipline, little simple disciplines every single day. It doesn't take much to read 10 pages of a book. Easy to do, but also easy not to do. But if you string those little disciplines, it doesn't take much to pick the better quality food over the shit food. And the challenge is most people will take the easy road, but they're both easy in the grand scheme of things. But one compounds positive effects and leads to success. The other, the opposite of simple disciplines practice every day is simple judgments, simple lack of judgment. And it's these little errors we do every single day, and they compound too. And that's why people end up like considered failures. I don't think anyone's ever a failure until you finally give up completely. But those little lack of discipline every day leads to failure, but discipline every day lead to success. And it was those little things. When I was making $4,000, I made $4,000 a year. I was reading the books though. I was compounding these disciplines. I was getting out of bed early. I took the TVs out of my house. I was compounding simple disciplines every single day so I wouldn't have to live a life of regret. So that when you said that, as soon as you said it, I was like, man, that was embedded in my head so much. Yeah. And people live these, like you said, man, I know a lot of people that, you know, they went to their grave with their music still in them, and, you know, books never written, businesses never started, all this potential, man, that could have happened just a little bit every day, a little bit every day. And one day, all of a sudden you wake up like, damn, this is working. This is happening. But you don't see it in the beginning. That's the problem. In the beginning, if you take two 20-year-olds and one's eating a Big Mac every day and French fries and the McFlurry or whatever, and the other one is not, and they're going to the gym and they're doing a little thing, they look about the same. You know, at 20, we look about the same, man. We could party all night and be ready to roll the next day. But at some point that there's something happens, and all of a sudden one goes one direction, and then it happens exponentially a lot of times, where all of a sudden, like, damn, then we're saying they got lucky. No, he didn't get lucky. He was doing the little disciplines every single day while you weren't. While you were fucking around at the beach, I was reading, you know, a book. I was studying the craft. I was becoming better. So I was preparing for the day so I would be worthy of the success that was inevitable if I kept doing these things. Anyways.
So powerful, man. So powerful, that right there. And I mean, where do I start? Regret is the worst fucking feeling in the world. And that's something that I know personally had regrets. I'm sure I'll have more regrets as a human, but I think what we're talking about here is one thing that I've seen in business specifically is people who go from 7 to 8 and even 8 to 9 figure businesses, like they maybe become really good at actually generating revenue, but at some point they kind of plateau and they forget about the things that you just talked about. Like they side them, right? It's like they stop reading books, they stop going to the gym, they stop eating right. You know, they're like, oh, I got to grind, I got to make money, I got to close deals. And here's you're talking about Jim Rohn, most world-renowned, you know, personal development / coaches out there, was talking about the importance of like feeding your mind. Because if you feed your mind and you educate yourself, like you said, people are fucking around and partying, you're reading a book or you're creating your business plan. You're doing things that's going to set you up for freedom. And freedom for like 50, 60, 70 years old, and you say, you know what? I don't have to do what I do today. I can live a life of go travel, more experiences and whatnot, because you can. Because you spent 2-3 decades setting up for this. And that's what I think a lot of modern entrepreneurs don't understand, is that you got to plan, you got to feed your mind. At least that's what I'm hearing from you, and invest in yourself. Invest in yourself in every way, because you don't want to be, you know, 70 years old in your deathbed and you're like, oh, fuck, my time is up, about to punch your card. You're done. You're finito, you know?
And that is it, man. We all know those stories. We all have them in our families. And coulda, I have a tattoo on my leg. It says coulda, shoulda, woulda, famous last words. And because I hear it all the time, man. I hear people hit me up like, John, I'm joining your company. I'm going to join the business with you. I want to be mentored. I'm going to go to the top, and all this bullshit they say. And then when it's time to show up for practice or get on one Zoom for an hour or go through our onboarding, getting started right training, it's crickets. Where are they? You just told me how bad you wanted and what you were going to do, and you didn't do shit. It's coulda, shoulda, woulda, famous last words. And people have like this wishbone, you know, and they like that. That's the reason why the lottery gets so big. How many times now have we seen the lottery get up to 900 million, a billion? I've never, when I was a kid, or it was never $1 billion lottery. Why? Because everybody wants fast money. They don't want to do shit for it. They don't want to become better. They don't get it, that it's thinking, becoming, then doing. That's how you get it. It's like everyone's trying to do, all of a sudden they're trying to skip all the steps. You can't skip the steps and become a millionaire. Now you can if you do win the lottery, But we see the people that get the lottery and they end up worse off after the lottery because they didn't become a millionaire. You didn't become worthy of what you got. God's going to take it away, or the universe, whatever you want. It's going to get taken away from you because you didn't become that person. And I was very fortunate because it got taken away from me, just so you know, twice. Like, this isn't just this all of a sudden happened. It didn't happen. And when it did happen, I was still fucking up. I still had some bad behaviors I had to work through. I still had some of these things, and I lost it, man. My ego, I have a tattoo, now it says ego is the enemy. And I remember it wasn't even that much money at one point. At one point, I think I was making 15, 20 grand a month. And I was like a jerk, bro. I became like, all of a sudden I became something that I didn't want to become. And I thought I was the shit. I thought I was the man. And I had a mentor, Jeff Olson, who wrote the book Slight Edge. Jeff said, bro, you forgot where you came from. And if you keep going this way, you're going to end up right back where you were. And that hit me hard. I was like, I do not want to go back. But, like anything, I lost it. The good news is how I got it was hard earned. I had to become something to get it. So I knew the formula, but I had to humble myself again. I had to humble myself down. I had to figure out, okay, where am I missing? Who can I learn from? And that's a challenge when you're young too, is like, we think we know everything. It's hard to listen to the old head because, what does he know? But you find out, man, that wisdom is valuable, especially like, I believe we're heading into a recession. I believe, in some cases, in some markets, we might be there already. Yeah. You find out really quick who got lucky and who didn't. You find out really quick, at that point, because I watched people in 2008, 9, 10, 11 wiped out. Big balls, millionaires, got to bust tables or wait tables at Applebee's. So it can, no matter how big of a big shot you have or how much money you have, we've seen all those stories, wiped it completely out. And you gotta become worthy. And I think humble, checking the ego, it's a hard thing to do, especially when you make money, because people all talk to you like you're something special. They open doors for you. You don't wait in line anymore. You don't have to even spend your money anymore. And you just think you're somebody, and if you let that go to your head, it's just a matter of time. And if you fall, they'll start kicking you if you had a big ego. But if you're humble on the way and you help people along the way, you know what I mean? And you're cordial, doors open up really fast if you have that fall. Because I've experienced both ends. Yeah.
Well, you actually led up to the specific question that I want to narrow down and ask you. I mean, you're absolutely right about everything you said, because once you start to rise up, people treat you differently. You're associated with different circles, different perception, right? Like suddenly you go from, the kid that was making $4,000 a year to what the fuck, he's rolling around in a Rolls Royce. He's got a beach house. Like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Right. So, which kind of brings me to, okay, we're in 2023. And what I want to know from you, because you've done a lot of shit, man. Like you've won, you've lost, you've experienced a lot, but if we look at modern entrepreneurship, right, whether you're 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9 figure business owner, like, are there specific traits that you think people need to have in order to be successful in business?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of traits that you need to have, and you don't need all of them in the beginning, but as your business grows, you're going to have to grow. You're going to have, and I'm not necessarily saying you have to focus in on your weaknesses. In the beginning, you don't have time to focus in on your weaknesses. So you got to figure out where you're strong. You know what I mean? And you got to have a couple of things to be successful. Characteristics you have to have. You have to have a burning desire. Like, you have to wake up in the morning, like, on fire. Like I had this burning, white hot desire to change my circumstances. That was the most important thing I figured out later on, and everything else. So burning desire. The second part, which has been a little bit challenging for us, is willing to work. That dirty 4-letter word called work, that is still alive and well in 2023. You are going to have to work. I hate to say it, but I mean, unless you got some crazy, rap skills. I was out on a yacht in Miami on Saturday with Millie's, the rap.
Shit.
Yeah. Like, you can spit. Like, unless you got some talent like that, which I don't. I was joking. I said, look, I remember back in the day, I wanted to be a rapper so bad, but Eminem shows up, and you can only have one good white rapper at a time. So I was going to wait. Now all of a sudden, Millie's shows up, another great white rapper. I'm like, I got to work I'm like 75 before I can, get the mic. I'm practicing. But anyways, unless you got some just incredible skills. But even that, man, these guys are working. I was there with him and his team. They're hustling. They still got to put the pieces together. So you got to have burning desire, willing to work. And I already said this. The definition of humble is coachable. In the beginning, those are the three you have to have. If you have those three characteristics, man, you can get a foundation locked in, rock solid. And then, from there, then you start to, you're going to have character, because charisma can get you in the door. Character will keep you in. So you see a lot of charismatic people get in, all of a sudden, where are they? They're gone because they didn't have the character to keep them in. So integrity is going to be important. What are you doing once you're in, when you're in the mix? How are you treating people? Do you keep your word? Do you show up when you say? Do you show up on time? I learned from a guy named Dave Lice, powerhouse insurance guy, owns an insurance company. Me and my little guy, my little group, we showed up late for a session with him to learn some stuff. And he basically said, bro, I won't teach you nothing. You don't waste my time. You came late, it's over. I was like, whoa, we were like 15 minutes late, which I didn't think was a big deal, because back then I was late for everything. But to him, time was his most valuable, and he was about to share his time with us for free. So he waited till we showed up, me and like 4 other guys. He actually got up once we got there, told us, you wasted my time, it's over, and he walked out. Now today, him and I are friends, and I respected that so much, and I learned a valuable lesson. Like, don't waste other people's time, but your time is just as valuable, and put a value on that. Anyway, so all these things I started to develop, these were characteristics that really started to happen as I was growing. But burning desire, willing to work, and coachable, or the definition of humble, man, those characteristics can take you a long way in the beginning and open up a lot of doors for you.
So these, I mean, they're very basic fundamentals, but most people fail to execute on them, let alone even see the importance of them. But what you're saying is these fundamentals are ultimately what has helped you go from, that kid dark past to, building these multi-million-dollar businesses and basically creating the life that you always dreamed of and never thought was even possible, until you kind of opened up your mind and said, says who? Me. I'm limiting myself by saying, who goes to show that I can't have a big house? I can't have a happy life. I can't have a successful marriage, a happy marriage. Who says I can't make a lot of money and do all these things that otherwise society says that no? You were talking about cubicles earlier, like, fuck, I'd get claustrophobic and shit like that. Like, how can someone sit in a space like that and think that's normal? We're humans. We're not meant to sit in a fucking space. We're meant to go out and create shit. And so what you're saying, actually, from what I'm hearing you say, is these are all powerful fundamentals that, regardless if you're just starting out and building that foundation for your business, for your life, or you're already at, let's say, 7 or even 8 figures, and now you're like, all right, how do I get to 9 or 10? Well, stay humble, right? Is what you're saying. Stay humble to your core and foundation, because don't waste people's time. Very important, because that's the one thing that we'll never get back of. And I admire that, because even if it's just 5 minutes or even a minute for showing up late, it's like, you're a minute late. I will not get that minute back.
Yep.
I will not get that minute back. So very, very powerful.
Well, you know how important time is. You have 2 kids, bro. That's what they want most from you. The kids want our time, period. End of story. And every time, the time I'm investing with you, Ivan, right now, and whoever ends up tuning into this is time I can't get back. So that's why I pick and choose where I put my time very carefully. I believe in this because there might be one person that catches this, and that could be the person that makes the impact. Or who knows, man. I wish I had this when I was coming up. And now, look, I'm in my 50s. And I'm learning every day. Look, AI is coming big. I want to be part of that. So 5 years ago, I caught on social media was moving the needle for a lot of people, and that there's 1 billion people on these platforms. This might be a way to really leverage some time and energy. And I'm like, I need to figure out that game. So if you stay in learning mode, if you stay in that mode and you stay humble enough and open enough, it's amazing what can happen. And then as you're compounding wisdom over the years, so if you're going from 20 to 30 and you've had all these failures along the way and you've learned from them, and now all of a sudden you get a success here, success there. Now all of a sudden you're going into your 40s and 50s and you're compounding that information, and the things that didn't work and did work. Now you're taking new technology that makes things work faster. So what I can do today with the new, I got a Fortune 500 company right here on this. I can run a Fortune 500 company from this. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't do that 10 years ago. The technology we have today, man, you can be anywhere. You can scale around the world today, and it's only getting faster and better. So you can either embrace that and be humble and say, look, I got to figure this out. Let me take a little time to study this, stay in the game and go after it, man. It's, you can't be messed with. My friend Stormy Wellington, I heard her on a live this morning talking about being unfuckwittable. I think that's how she said, unfuckwittable.
I love that. I love that.
Unfuckwittable when you're feeding this and you're moving forward and you're embracing this stuff. So yeah, it's cool.
You know, as you're talking about all these different things, and first of all, I appreciate the fuck out of your time. I really do. Because I know, like you said, you pick and choose. And that was a specific reason why I reached out to you, is because based on the impression that you created, I was like, this dude is fucking legit. Like, he's done some shit. I can't wait to unpack this. I know other people are going to listen to this. It's so ironic you said, because there was one person in the past, actually, prior to relaunching this podcast, that literally went from almost getting fired, you know, at his job, to doing, I think, $1.5 million in the first year being an Amazon reseller, because he kept listening to older versions of this podcast. And to your point, one person, man, you can change the life of one person, and just by helping them change their perception and mindset. And that's exactly what you're doing on this episode. You know, there's going to be at least one person who's going to listen or watch this and be like, well, fuck, like you said, if John can fail for 7 years before he sees a glimpse, then maybe my life is not so fucking bad after all. Because people look at that, man. Like, people look at that like, my life sucks. No, your life don't suck. You got a roof over your fucking head. Shut the fuck up. You know, you got heat, you got AC, you know, here we are, we're on mics, we're spitting knowledge, you're spitting knowledge on a podcast, people get to consume it. It's like, your life don't fucking suck, man.
No. You know what? So I was on the plane going to Miami and then coming back. There's a show called 1883, and it's about like pioneers back in the West in the year 1883. Their life sucked. I look at I don't care how poor you are, how bad you think you have it, to go from Fort Worth, Texas to Portland, Oregon in a wagon train, man, death and destruction everywhere. The odds of you making it were slim to none. And if you didn't get there by winter, you were probably going to die. It is amazing what they went through. And it's inspired. The show is inspiring me, because I'm like, and we just touched on something that I heard last night coming back on the plane in Miami. The dude said, the two main characters said, why do you do this? Because it's hard. Like, you're gonna probably die. Rattlesnakes gonna get you, the river's gonna get you, the Indians are gonna get you, the bandits are gonna, it's every time you turn around, something's gonna get you. He said, because if we can get one person, if one person goes from this, they're bad, because they're doing this to escape, you know, lack of freedom. They're, you know, these guys are from Germany. They weren't even allowed to swim. Like, if you swam, you weren't even allowed to learn how to swim in Germany in 1883. And so my point is, and then all the other stuff he had, and he said, if we could just get one person that can change the world. So that's why he was doing these wagon, you know, whatever they call them. And he said, what if one kid, one family comes up and they're the ones that make the world a better place? And I thought, man, it's an interesting deal, because it only takes one of us. It only took one Mallott to change the Mallott family tree and to be building the legacy that will one day my children's children will benefit from. You know what I'm saying? And if you start thinking, if you go from thinking about success, which is adding value to self, then to significance, which is adding value to others, and then the ultimate, the final level is legacy, where you're now in the game, but you're doing it not for the money anymore, not for the fame or the recognition. You're doing it because, man, we can make the world a better place. We can make somebody else better that maybe carries the torch. You get my point, man. It's powerful when you start to think about it, but being grateful for the roof over the head, the food in the belly, man, the ability to walk outside, to see, to hear, to taste, to smell. We take all this shit for granted, man.
You know, here we are, we're talking about mindset, we're talking about personal development. And I feel like there's a lot of people in business, John, like you were talking about the last big recession, 2008, 2009, these big ballers that literally crashed and burned. And you said they're busting tables in Applebee's just, you know, to pay their electric bill, you know, because shit literally came crashing down so fucking badly. But we're talking about all of this, man. And like, I feel like there's a period in time where people, you know, get a taste, you know, in business, and they're like, oh, making, like you said, the 15, 20K, and you became an ass at the time. People are like, John, remember where the fuck you came from, right? Like trying to keep you grounded, because you got a taste, man. You got a taste. You're like, I'm making some money. I can pay my bills. I can even splurge some, you know, I can go out and party, you know, I can do whatever, you know, I got money coming in, right? But you're also talking about the importance of, like you said, legacy, which I think is so powerful, and something that I resonate with is because once I think a lot of people get to the top, I think they forget and they're like, fuck legacy. You know, I'm living my own life. There's a lot of people like that who are not necessarily pursuing legacy. Like you said, it's important because how are you going to impact your family? How are you going to change the world? What things are you going to do? Because let's face it, man, when you're fucking dead, people remember you by legacy.
Yeah.
That's what they remember you by. What did you do for other people? How did you impact the world? And suddenly it's like, well, maybe he wasn't such a bad person, you know, because he did all these cool things that changed, you know, maybe it's that little thing that you created an impact in someone's life. They remember that experience. They remember how it impacted their business, how it impacted the environment, you know, or even industries for that matter. Because what you're doing right now with your business, man, you're fucking disrupting industries, bro. Like just completely disrupting, which I love, because I believe that the way that you should push forward is through disruption. And you, of all people, know about disruption because that's literally what you've done in the last 15, 20 years. Like everybody said that you should do this. And you're like, fuck that. I'm doing my own thing over here because I believe in this, right? Yeah. I believe in it. I know it's going to be beneficial. I know it's going to take a lot of fucking time. It's going to take a lot out of me, you know, to make this happen. Which actually brings me to differentiation, because you talked about a lot of different things that are mindset driven, personal development. But in 2023, what do you think in terms of differentiating yourself, not just on a personal level, but on the business front? Like, what should people be thinking about? What are some things that you think are very important?
Well, first off, you've got to be thinking about technology. When we're heading into something I've never seen, and none of us have ever seen, obviously, you see what's happening with artificial intelligence, for example. Yeah. Like there are going to be a lot of people displaced by artificial intelligence, but there's also going to be a lot of people that benefit tremendously. So you can make a decision on what side you're going to be on, you know. And for me, I'm seeing the power of artificial intelligence, and whether I like it or not, it's coming. Like there's no choice. You don't have a choice. You can hate it, but you can go the way of the dinosaur too. So you have to, I don't care if someone's on here is 80 years old right now saying, well, I'm struggling with this stuff. You can take a little bit of time and figure out how to use this technology for your benefit, because it can be a time saver. It can be a leverage creator. And you have to be thinking about leverage today, because if not, you're always going to trade your time for someone else's dollars. And that can be frustrating. I'm always looking for ways to get leverage in my life, and then to use systems that keep driving income so that I have a cash flow stream happening 24 hours, 7 days a week. So for me, the biggest thing right now, as I'm going to 2023, I'm thinking about technology. How do I use technology? I have a business that we're disrupting. Yep. The supplement industry with Snap Packs. We love it. I did it because I had health challenges 14 years ago that led me into getting sugar out of my diet, changing everything, you know, from a health standpoint, because I want to be around. I want to live. And I don't want to just live. I don't want the pharmaceutical companies to keep me alive. I want to thrive. I want to be that guy 70 years old running marathons and I love it. Still having sex. You know what I mean? Like,
hell yeah.
In the game, bro. I want my testosterone. We got 20-year-olds like today, the testosterone is dropped in statistically in half. You got 20-year-olds that have testosterone levels of women 50 years ago. Women had higher testosterone 50 years ago than guys have today in their 20s. I mean, it's a lot of it's because we're consuming all of these you know, we got entrepreneurs that have created some massive food companies, publicly traded companies that produce, you know, tobacco companies bought, you know, Kraft and RJ Nabisco, and they've figured out Starbucks has 29 chemicals in a cup of coffee. That's not a cup of coffee. That's an experiment to see how much can we put into a cup of coffee? How little coffee can we actually put in a cup of coffee? Then throw 100 grams of sugar in there, addict them like crazy. And we're slowly becoming like soy-based bodies, estrogen-filled men. I'm like, I studied all this stuff, and I said, I'm going to create a company for me to thrive. And after all the studying I did over the last 12 years, I almost died. When I had the nightclub and I had the restaurant, I almost killed myself in that environment.
Too much, yeah.
It was too much, man. But I got with naturopaths, and I started to study nutrition and health and wellness. And we're addicted to sugars. These kids, they will not touch anything that doesn't taste right in their mouth. Now they're missing out on some incredible experiences. They're missing out on some incredible vitamins, minerals, herbs, spices, nutrients that can really transform the body. They're missing out because we gave the little baby a little sugar, you know, and she lit up and it was all cute and stuff, but we didn't realize same chemical reaction in the brain as if we were doing cocaine. We're setting our kids up, highest rates of obesity, diabetes amongst children. It's the first time ever in our history the next generation of kids have an 11 to 20 year less lifespan than the generation before because of carbohydrate and sugar addiction to the max. And we're responsible. We fucked them up because everything has to taste good and feel good. If it doesn't taste good and feel good, I don't want it. And it's making men not men anymore.
You know, not to interject you.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you mentioned this is really important because first of all, I got on the tee shot actually personally 6 months ago, and I'm 43. Actually, I'm going to be 43 tomorrow. And what you were talking about is what I didn't know is just that after the age of 33, most men's testosterone drops by 50%. Now, what does that really mean? And this is all public knowledge you can find on Google. Yep. Literally talks about like a focus, lack of energy, lack of sex, like everything literally that's affected. But what do traditional companies tell us? Like, well, no, don't take testosterone, you know, because it's not good for it. It's like, well, you can't sleep right because your T's low. And then if you're someone like me, being an Eastern European, bro, I grew up on fucking sugar and chocolate. Yes. Like, in fact, actually, nobody in my entire family has worked out in my life. And here I am, like this morning, I burned 450 calories on fasted cardio. I'm about to run my first half Ironman in 2023 at 43 years old.
Yeah, I love
like,
it.
It's just like you were talking about, but this is so important because people don't understand. Because, bro, I talked to some people that are, like you said, high rollers. They don't even do half the shit that I'm doing, like fitness, mindset, and they just think that, you know, I'm always going to be making money, right? So why do I need to go to a gym? Why do I need a healthier? Why should I ditch sugar, right? And which, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about OSNAP because you put up the pack. Talk a little bit about that in that company because a lot of people actually don't even know about OSNAP.
Yeah, nobody knows. That's the beauty of it. We're less than 2 years old, and we've just I'm really big on getting the foundation right philosophically. All those pieces have to come together. We're now at the point where I feel real confident. We've got the one and only machine that produces what are called snap packs, because I learned 13 years ago, I was 40. I had right around 40, I had a major health issue. Like literally making plans, like I'm making arrangements. I can't get out of bed. Imagine me can't get out of bed. Like something's clearly messed up. I went through all the traditional doctors, things like that. They put me on pharmaceuticals. I was just getting worse and worse and worse. Big money involved, but because of me in the pursuit of money, I damaged my health. I have a friend, he says, you should go see my friend, this naturopath. I thought a naturopath was like a witch doctor, like, oh, some voodoo shit's going to happen. I'm like, but at that point I was desperate. Yeah. The naturopath turned me on to, like, I was vitamin D deficient. Matter of fact, check this out. The traditional doctors only asked me questions about like lineage, my genealogy. So they blamed my condition on my dad and my grandfather, left me off the hook completely. It had nothing to do with me.
What?
Drinking, my sugar intake, none of that. And they said, no problem. We got some pharmaceutical drugs. We're going to put you on. We're going to take care of this. It made me worse. The naturopath had the gall to blame me. Like, it's your sugar, it's the alcohol, it's the lack of vitamin D, your magnesium, you got all these chemicals in your blood, all this stuff. She said, you did this to you. It's not your dad's fault, not your granddaddy's fault. You did this because basically, and now I believe death is a disease that that we can prevent for a long, long, long time. We should go one day in our sleep of old age for real. Not because cancer got us, not, and again, sometimes we're just kids sometimes dealt a bad hand. We can't explain that, the anomalies, but most of the shit that we're dying from and getting sick from, we could prevent. Diabetes is one of the most preventable things out there. And right now they're talking about over 50% of the population is diabetic. Some estimate almost 70% pre-diabetic in the Western world. We are literally eating ourselves to death. And look, so I was like, I'm going to create, when I discovered like gummies are the worst because they're you don't absorb much of it. And they're just appealing to our addiction. 4 grams of sugar or a bunch of sucralose is not serving you, thinking you got some vitamins in that gummy. Right. Get rid of that crap. Garbage. I did the study there. Pills and powders, absorption was the thing. Okay, you're not absorbing as much. So liquid I caught on very quickly. Liquid was going to be the most absorbable for my system, but it's not convenient. I travel a lot. I go to the gym. I can't carry a bottle with me. I got to refrigerate afterwards. So we came up with these snap packs, and all you do, you snap it right to your mouth. Boom. I just got a shot of 700 milligrams of AC11, which is a telomere lengthening compound. I took it right from the clinical studies. I took the exact dosage from the clinical studies, put it in liquid form with a full dose of vitamin C. And this is the stuff that we have to have. You have to offset the damage we're doing because it's in the air, it's in the water. You can't avoid it today. You can't, you're going to go out to eat, take your wife out on a dinner date. You're going to consume some shit that you should offset. And so I just said, for me, it's offsetting. I'm not trying to disrupt people's lives and saying, you got to do this. Like sometimes, we get fanatical in our stuff. I'm not that way. Even though it's vegan and sugar-free and dairy-free and gluten-free and chemical-free and all that, I'm not telling you like this is the one cure-all thing. I'm saying it's part of, like you said, going to the gym, go outside and get some damn sun. Have sex with your wife, live your life, put on something positive. We're transforming minds first, bodies second, then bank accounts third. Everybody's focused on the bank accounts and they're wondering why their waistline is so bad. They're wondering why their cholesterol level is so bad. They're within inches of a fucking heart attack. So you make all this money for what? For what? For your wife's new boyfriend to enjoy? It's like what?
All over and fucking die pretty much.
Yeah, bro. So it's it really is. It's a game changer. And we're I do feel like we're disrupting in a way. And there's a lot of people that don't like it, but that's okay. But we're collaborating with some killers in the athletic world. Influencers, my business partner Cody Sperber, Terry LaCour. My wife is a fucking killer. I don't know if you've ever seen what she does in the health and wellness field. There's nobody.
Is it Naj?
Yeah, Naj, but yeah, on Instagram it's Naj. Yeah. I've never met anybody in my life more disciplined, more committed, more gangster with being what you say you are. And in that space, yeah, she's unfuckwittable for sure.
John, I follow both of you, not to interject. And that's actually the one thing I love is because, like you said, that the commitment, the discipline that you both have is the word that you said, unfuckwittable. Unfuckwittable. That's it. Unfuckwittable. It absolutely is, man. And so you were talking about, actually, I want to go back to, because I actually went through this. You were talking about Starbucks. So there was someone that I talked to a couple of years ago that was explaining to me how Starbucks coffee was twice burned. And mind you, I used to love my fucking lattes, dude. Holiday lattes. I would eat the shit out of those things. And I'll be like $6, $7. I don't give a fuck. I'll have it around, Christmas time, right? But what I found out is like, why am I getting heartburn every time I have one of those things? Right. And what I found out is that it was because the coffee was twice burned for darker, richer flavor. It had so much fucking acid in it that was giving me heartburn. And now what the doctor was saying, no, you just need to take some over-the-counter stuff for heartburn. No, I stopped drinking Starbucks. I haven't drank Starbucks in probably at least 2 years now. No heartburn, John. Zero heartburn. I'm like, there's nothing fucking wrong with you. So like what you're talking about though, on the business level is so many people are like, how much money can I make? Because let's face it, it's Q1 in 2023 and everybody's like money. It's the last time of the year, tax season, right? How can I make more money, right? Because it's slow right now. It's slow. We're not bringing in as much cash. Some industries are a little different. Others won't. But what you're saying is like, too many people are focused on the bank account instead of mind and body, because if you don't have mind and body, the bank account's not going to fucking come.
Yep. Bro, the first thing we should all be focusing on that I did not catch on to, that I didn't understand, because I always neglected it because I thought money was the most important thing. Then I caught on time is the most important thing. How do I get time? Well, I'm only going to get more time if I'm healthy, if I'm strong, if I'm vibrant, if I'm energetic. You know what I'm saying? How do I make more money? Look, energy creates movement. Movement creates momentum. Momentum creates money. So that's the key to this whole game is you got, and if you don't feel good, and unfortunately around, even now it's younger, people start to accept a certain level of not feeling good. Like they didn't just talk, I'm just getting older. You accept some joint pain, you accept like the heartburn. My dad used to suck on Tums all day long. I'm like, I know that ain't good for you. And you start to accept these little things. I don't accept any of it. I accept none of it. I'm like, there is a herb, there's a spice, there's a mineral, there's something I'm deficient in. My body's trying to tell me. Now it's my job to listen, because in the scripts it says, treat your body like a temple, not like a fucking woodshed. So let me figure out, what do I have to do? Like, I don't know what anyone's beliefs. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to preach to anybody. I'm certainly not qualified, but there were stories of people living a long damn time back in the day when they weren't sucking down Starbucks and chemicals and all this other stuff. And they were one with the spirit and the land and all this stuff. Now, again, do what you want. But for me in my house, we're going to continue to put out, like, even our products. Like I refuse to put sugar, or even worse, sucralose. People see zero sugars and they think they're doing something. I said, no, they're filling you up with sucralose now, which fucks up your gut even worse. So beware when you see zero sugars, because it's cheap and it still has the flavor, because they know you're addicted to it. I said, none of it. We won't put any of it. So if you can't take a little shot in your mouth that can move the needle in your health, because it doesn't taste like fucking unicorn piss or cotton candy rainbows, you know what I'm saying? Then you don't deserve to be healthy. Then you're going to pay the consequences. It's the way it is. I don't want to get up early some mornings and go do what I got to do, but I do it because I know I'm going to get either slapped or rewarded for the actions I take. It's exactly the same way in our health. So I created products that, maybe that first hit, because your body has to adjust. It has to detox from all the bullshit, because you're now addicted to all these chemicals, to all these sugars, to all these fake sugars, all this stuff, titanium dioxide, all this crap we put in our stuff. If you don't adjust, your body's going to slap the shit out of you. You're going to wake up and wish you had made those, what we talked about earlier, simple disciplines. It doesn't take much. You can snap one of these. Now at least you've offset some of the damage. Anyways, don't get me started on my own company, my product, bro. I'll go hard on this.
I love that, man. And I love that you talked about it. That's why I asked this, because, well, first of all, most people probably don't even know. That's why I wanted you to talk about it. And secondly, is this that, talk about the benefit behind it, is because what it does for you, because people don't understand, man. I mean, if you're a 7, 8, 9-figure business owner and you're not investing, or you've stopped investing in your mind, body, if you stop going to the gym, stop eating healthy, dude, there's a lot of people out there like that. A lot of people. And they just think that, well, you know what, I got assets, I got money, I don't need to go to the gym. I can just keep drinking a bottle of wine every night. I can eat a lot of steak or fat shit or burgers or whatever. And that's going to be cool, right? But that shit's going to catch up with you. And when it does, you're going to regret the fuck out of it. Because, like, I see people, they'll start different programs, right? And then they'll get a few days into them, they'll quit. And it's like, did you forget the commitment that you made to yourself? The discipline. Because if you're not doing that, you're definitely not going to amplify that into your business, because it's going to catch up with you mentally. It already has, because you quit too early. And so I love that you talked about that. And the last part that I want to talk about, so you've been involved in several businesses, obviously Snap, primary focus right now. Let's talk a little bit about, because you mentioned technology and AI. Let's talk a little bit about the marketing piece, man. Like, I want to get your take on, from a business standpoint, like, what things have you done marketing wise? Where do you think the marketing falls into your business, and what things are you doing and trying now to really help, springboard you and keep pushing forward?
Well, yeah, of course, marketing is if I'm known for anything, it's probably marketing, because the reason we got out in front of a lot of people and got traction is because we had good marketing. And a lot of times it wasn't me. It was, I learned early on, find good people, get a good team of people. So if I was weak in a particular, but I've caught on marketing. the average entrepreneur spends so much time focused on like the facts and the details and the information. And that's really what that's about 10, like that's going to move 10, that's like 10% of the process. Marketing is probably another 20 or 30%. So it's more and it's critical. But for me, the game changer was relationship building. Where the most doors opened up were these relationships. Yeah. My friend Cody Sperber introduced me to Eric Spot for, you know, we were on, he's got a 92-foot yacht we were on in Miami hanging out with him. Those doors, those are relationships because we have a strong relationship, and that leads me, then it opens the door for me to actually build a marketing campaign. And then they open up doors. You know what I'm saying? If on every time you elevate, there should be more doors opening up because you're building relationships first. And if you get focused on that, if you're fucking up relationships or burning bridges everywhere you go, it doesn't matter how great your marketing is or the information about, none of that matters. So again, for me, it's building relationships. That's 60, 70% of what I do. And then 20, 30% is marketing. And if you're not sure about that, you can just go find a brand that you like that does well and just copy their stuff. I mean, I had a mentor used to say, it's okay to be a copycat as long as you copy the right cat. So I just copied the right cats, and then the information, detail. No one really cares about the information. I could tell you all the details and all this, but what you care about is the 2 or 3 benefits. If I got a product that'll help you live longer, the feature is it'll lengthen your telomeres. But what does that mean? Well, that means less joint pain. That means your skin is better. If I can give you 3 or 4 benefits that actually you can relate to, your eyesight gets better. You know, you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, and that's the type of things people want to know. So again, so I would market around the benefits. I figure, oh, here's the facts, information. Nobody really gives a shit. You point that out. That's 10% or so, 20%. Take another chunk of that and market around those benefits or those features. You market the benefits, but build the relationships, because that's going to be the name of the game. If you got people open the door, you got someone, you know, you get the right person, got 1 million followers on Instagram that says, hey, Ivan's the man, she's the woman. All of a sudden that day, you just moved a whole bunch of product with very little marketing involved. So.
No, that's so important. And I wanted to ask the question because, let's face it, I mean, in 2023, you know, marketing is important, but I think, like you said, a lot of people go about it the wrong way. And one thing I heard you say is relationships. Literally, if you build, you know, we live in a social age where, you know, we all have access to Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and God knows what other platform, right? But the real important part of modern marketing is being able to build relationships with the right people that ultimately become advocates for you. It's like you said, you know, Instagram, someone throws your name out, they got 1 million followers, you know, and suddenly you're like, holy shit, people know about me that didn't know about me because someone else introduced me to their network. And that's how powerful it is, because in the earlier days, like you were talking about, you know, network marketing specifically, you were doing it, but on a much smaller scale. You couldn't amplify it to millions and millions of people. And I think that's what people don't understand, because they're so focused on like KPIs, like, oh, how many likes did I get? Or how many comments? Or how many views did I get? No, man, forget about that. Just focus on the fucking relationships. And that's what you were pretty much talking about, right? Is if you're going to be doing it right, then focus on getting in front of the right people that can ultimately open doors for you.
Because, well, you know, I assume that at some point you're going to understand your numbers. You're going to have to know your numbers. That's just right. That becomes part of your business. That's inevitable. You're going to have to get that stuff down. But what happens sometimes, if all you're focusing on is KPI, you're focusing on those metrics and that's it, and you're missing the relationship side. Great products come and go, and they get knocked off all the time by someone bigger, badder, faster. Sure, I realize all the time there's always someone richer, smarter, faster. I talked about on one of my videos I posted today about saturation. Look, it's a myth, because someone can go into just about any market and blow that market up. I don't care how saturated it appears to be. So you know, again, there's a lot of these pieces, and sometimes, you know, as like gurus, we try to say it's this way or the highway. I learned a long time ago, I've got so much flexibility built in, because Ivan, there's things that you probably do that I don't do, that, you know, my way works, but your way also works in this area.
Sure.
So I got away from being this like my way or the highway type thing. Now, when I'm scaling a business inside of my personal business, I have a system driven way of doing things. It's done this way. McDonald's says, okay, for example, back in the day, cheeseburger, yellow wrapper, fillet of fish goes in the turquoises.
Right,
You
right,
don't
right.
deviate from that. You don't
Yeah.
bring your mother's special sauce into the McDonald's, your
Right.
franchise. No, you paid $2 million for it. You stay in this lane because this is how we scale worldwide. So I think like that in my business from a system standpoint. This is how we do it. We do it over and over and over. We call it mastering the mundane. Same thing over and over and over. Boring as fuck. But eventually that thing starts to grow like this, and then you're free. Yeah. Anyways, bro, I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm very thankful for your time. And with that being said, how can people connect with you, by the way, out there in the social space?
Yeah, probably the best way. I tend to put more time into Instagram for whatever reason. So it's just my first name, John, John Mallott, John.Mallott. That actually rhymes. I didn't think about that. John.Mallott, John.Mallott, Mallott. That's the best place to reach me. I answer all my DMs. Sometimes it takes a while, but I used to have people that do all that, and I lost that connection, which is, if I'm going to tell people 70% is building relationships, I'm trying to be engaged, with people that want to engage. And so that's the best place, John.Mallott. And I'm happy to follow up. I'd love to do this again with you sometime. I appreciate what you're doing, Ivan. I wish this was available. This type of stuff was available back in the day. That's why I'm willing to do things like this with the right people, because these seeds can be planted and the mind can expand and never go back to its original dimensions.
Whether you on the outside or your market trying to tap back in, or just need a little help to find a way to gain some traction again, you need some market reconnection. We got the answers to your questions. No second thoughts or second guessing. You need some market reconnection.